And we're live. Hi, this is Sarah from Screen Pages, and this is episode 10 of Useful Strategies to Combat Disruption. And I'm joined today by Ellie from Nosto. Ellie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and Nosto, because you'll do a better job than me.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me on. Obviously, I'm Ellie. I'm the UK partner manager at Nosto. I've been working for just over a year now. So that means I look after both agencies like the wonderful Screen Pages and technology partners as well in the UK. So for those who don't know, Nosto's a personalisation platform. We have about 2,500 customers worldwide, 6 offices. We started off basically doing product recommendations, and from there the platform's grown a ton, like even since I started about a year ago. So now it's a full personalisation platform, which basically gives customers the ability to rely solely on analytics that have been trained just on e-commerce data, and also the ability to tweak those with merchandising rules so they can optimize for things like margin and inventory level.
Okay. For those because we obviously have quite a few merchants using Nosto very successfully, and it's helped them with increase their average order values, and it's helped them with customer retention and all sorts of things like that. But for those people out there who aren't actually already transacting online, what do you mean by personalization, starters, and why is it super important when you're selling online?
So there's a number of different features in the platform. The first one being product recommendations. So obviously, like even people who aren't selling online right now will have come across product recommendations shopping online. So it's recommendations based on, and you can set whether you want to recommend based on a person's browsing behavior or the products they've bought before, whether they have an affinity for certain brands. You can decide how you want to target customers, but it then recommends products based on their preferences. So it personalizes the products they're recommended on a one-to-one basis, which you can imagine obviously aids a lot in conversion and also product discovery. Which then feeds into user experience. That's all super important. But then we also have features like content personalization, which can be really useful for communicating certain things to certain customers. It can be useful for creating, like replicating your brand experience from brick and mortar stores online. We do category page merchandising, so you can sequence your products on category pages in certain orders, which obviously is important again for product discovery and showing the right products to the right customers. It feeds into a lot of different KPIs, but I'd say the main ones are probably things like conversion and average order value as well.
Okay.
If I've answered your question.
But so it's a bit like in the olden days, you'd walk into a shop and the shop owner would know you and they would know your preferences and they would go, "Oh, just got my latest collection in.
You'll love this."
Yeah, this because you like the color blue, or
yeah.
So on and so forth. But so it allows you to deliver that kind of service to your customers online.
Yeah, so it improves their customer experience, and it helps with things like product discovery, so they're not spending ages looking for the things they want online as well. So it can help reduce bounce and.
As if you're having to look at like 500 black dresses.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's really useful. So what sort of, with all this sort of lockdown stuff, what sort of consumer trends have you seen recently across your customer base?
So lots of different things. We've actually been running a fashion report recently since everything started. So we've seen things sort of changing in the last couple of months. Initially, there was kind of a bit of a shock to the system, as obviously consumers sort of panicked and spending plummeted, and online and obviously stores suffered. Like there was a huge drop in all KPIs, but recently, I say even maybe the end of April, start of May, things have been picking up a lot, and we're actually at a point now where especially online stores are up compared to last year in pretty much all KPIs, apart from actually average order value seems to be sort of lagging slightly still.
Yeah. And is that across the board, or is it in certain verticals more than others? Because in our case, across we have a much smaller sample size of merchants. We've got 35, but we've seen that people selling food, obviously, it's been going like gangbusters. Yeah. Sort of at-home DIY products, the same. Some types of fashion have been fine, like loungewear and things like that. Yeah. If you're in the market of selling, Manolo Blahnik's, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, or Gucci black tie dresses, there hasn't been a huge amount of demand.
Yeah, we've seen that too. It's interesting though, because obviously I think like a lot of people saw a big surge in products that you could use at home. So whether it's like home and garden or home gym stuff, or kids' toys, like home office equipment. Yes. But I think all of that was probably kind of a bit of a temporary surge where people got themselves stocked up for working from home. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now. I think like things like loungewear will probably continue to be quite popular because it looks like we're going to be at home for a while, and it's kind of nice to buy nice comfy clothes and nice fabrics.
Absolutely. I purchased a hoodie for myself, I'm ashamed to say. I thought I was getting so many emails saying, you can rock a hoodie. I actually bought one.
Very comfy though. I don't know if you can see, but I've got a Nosto hoodie on today.
Oh, yeah. With the matching tracksuit bottoms. So if it takes me back to the 1980s when we were all wearing that stuff anyway, I should have kept all my old stuff from
shell suits.
Yes, you're too young, but I'm definitely was doing this at shell suits. Okay, so have you got any kind of, and I know it's difficult to say, but if I clearly investing in a piece of software that is going to allow you to deliver a better customer experience, there are always costs associated with these things. But one of the things you mentioned is you can sort of help merchants increase average order values. Have you got any kind of sort of examples around that? So I know that from within our client base, that's worked very well for some of our merchants that are using your software, that have seen uplifts of about 15% in terms of their average order values. Would you say that that's sort of fairly consistent, or does it vary from sort of vertical to vertical or merchant to merchant? I mean,
yeah, I think so. We would say generally merchants can expect a 10 to 30% increase in average increase in revenue, and about 7 times average return on investment. But obviously that depends on which products they're using in the feature set, what they're actually aiming for, like what their goals are. Yeah. Are they just trying to create a brand experience, or are they actually aiming to increase average order value or conversion or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And then how much traffic they've got coming to the site. But we've got a few case studies that are interesting. I think like the most recent one was with Robert Dias. It's just come out. They were using product recommendations and content personalization, I think. And they also used our A/B testing feature. So I think they saw, having a look at it now, so an 88% increase in conversion rate by personalizing the homepage experience. So they basically, shoppers coming to the homepage, depending on which segment they fell into, saw different content.
A complete mixture of things, like anything from tools to kitchenwares. It's very, so they'll have a very diverse customer base, I would have thought. I'm actually, Robert Dias is one of my favorite shops. I'm ashamed to say. I'm not ashamed, but you know what I mean. It's unusual for a woman. So 88% increase in conversion. So that's pretty much almost doubling their conversion. So they're getting, that must have resulted in almost a doubling of orders for visitors coming through their homepage.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's pretty compelling. Is that case study available on your website anywhere?
It is, yeah. It's on the web. There's a ton of just on, if you go to I can send them out to anyone who's interested after, but there's a ton of case studies on the site with the results they've seen. There's another thing that can be great for average order value is dynamic bundles.
Yeah.
I think we've got a customer that's using that. I think they've just implemented it recently. I'm not sure what their figures are. Yeah. I know they were good with another.
By a dynamic bundle, would that be like the ability for the customer to sort of do their own bundle, or the bundle is sort of done on the fly based on their previous products they've looked at and stuff like that? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's kind of both. It basically takes the manual labor out of building a bundle. So instead of having to pick specific products that go together, you can do that, or you can take the manual effort out of it and just pick based on like category or product type. So you could have a bundle for someone who's looking at benches or tables or something, and you could pull through in the bundle a bench and a chair or something, just any product from that category. But every person coming to the site would see something different because it's based on their preferences. So all you have to say is, I want this type of product, rather than saying I want this specific product with this other product. So it saves time for the merchant, and it's great for average order value as well.
Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. So some of the feedback we've had is, some merchants are like, well, I don't need to invest in anything because I've seen my orders going through the roof, and e-commerce is the future, and the high street is dead. We've seen all sorts in the past 2 months, because, as you can probably imagine, there were a bunch of wholesalers who suddenly decided to go direct to consumer. So they spun up a website really quickly, and because of the sort of panic buying, started taking loads of orders. Our concern for those merchants is that if they don't focus on customer retention, people will go back to their old buying habits after lockdown. So would you say that that's true, or do you think that the whole world is going to now start buying online? And
it is interesting, isn't it? Because I think so there's two main effects I think that's had. Like, firstly, people who would never have shopped online before have had to start shopping online. Like my mum, for example, hated online shopping, and she's had to start buying on Sainsbury's now. She's like, it's great. I don't know why I bothered doing it in store before.
I don't know why anybody bothers going.
Yeah, they just bring it to you. Lovely. So I think they've tried it, and if they've liked it, they'll probably stick with it. And then there's also we're unlikely to sort of snap back to things super quickly. We could be sort of in some version of lockdown for a while. Like, even when the shops open, I think was it IKEA opened the other day, and there was a queue like a mile long outside. So it probably won't be a super pleasant experience for a little while. So I think, like, the longer people spend shopping online, the less likely they are to, the more likely they are to keep buying more online. So I definitely see it continuing to be a super important channel for retailers. What do you think? You see that too, or?
Yes, that merchants doing this or doing this for the first time properly need to understand that it's not quick, easy, and cheap to do. That you do have to absolutely focus on retaining those customers and giving them a really good experience. So if, for example, you take an order for products that you don't have because your stock management isn't up to scratch, or you take an order that can't be fulfilled for 5 weeks for something that the customer needs urgently, they're only going to order from you once.
I think that's it as well, because there's so many more people ordering online as well. There's a lot more options, or a lot more sort of willingness to try other options, because, as you say, like, there's sort of availability of stock has been sort of an issue in a lot of cases. So you have to really work hard on making sure you give your customers the best experience possible on site. Otherwise, they'll just go somewhere else and then you've lost them forever. So making sure that it's like the best experience they can have on site, and it's easy to find stuff. And, you know, if you are having shipping delays, make sure you're communicating it, and then it's sort of clear on your site, so it doesn't come like as a surprise and they end up with a bad taste in their mouths for the next time.
Well, that's right. And I think the discovery point you made earlier as well is very important. So if, for example, I'm on a site and I'm looking for a particular product and it's out of stock, if I'm served up, you know, alternatives that I might not have even known about that are equally as good, you know, I might sort of, you know, buy something that I'd never bought before. I mean, I know that personally, that's been happening to me a lot, where my usual sort of shopping list online is not just got the things that I've been ordering week in, week out for the past 10 years. I'm suddenly trying new brands, brands of cheese and new brands of this and new brands of that, probably because there are stock outages of some of the more popular brands, but also because, you know, the recommendations are working really well and they kind of know what I like and what I don't like, and don't serve up recommendations that wouldn't be appropriate for me.
Yeah, or things that are, like you said, sort of out of stock. You don't want to click on a recommendation and then go, oh, I can't actually have that.
That would just frustrate you, and that would give you another good reason for, like you mentioned, your mother, you know, if her first online shopping experience had been painful, then she might have sort of reverted back to type. The only thing that concerns me slightly about this whole sort of will people shop more online is that I think we're all so desperate to get outside something different. But, you know, the first time I'm going to be allowed in an H&M, I'm going to be
I don't know, maybe I'm biased. I think I definitely would still like to buy certain things in stores, like, I don't know, luxury products where I want to go and actually have, I don't know, I've never been to a shop where they give me champagne, but if I want a really special experience, if I just want something, I'd rather just get it online and not have to go and actually carry it home.
If you have to queue for 5 miles to get into the shop, then you're definitely going to need a glass of champagne, or you're or a stiff drink or something. It's interesting to see it'll really be interesting to see what strategies the high street will put in place to get footfall back in stores. So
plus you can actually, speaking of the luxury experience, you can actually do that online too. You know, you can replicate that experience. Like, there's a customer, Dunhill, that we talk about all the time, but they created sort of a VIP experience really well in a particular campaign they did, sort of to build some excitement about a new product launch they were building, and it felt sort of really luxury and exciting, just even though it was online and they went in sort of in person to pamper people.
But that's good, and people want to feel like you understand them and you know them and that you know what they want.
Yeah,
they don't want to have to tell you, which can be challenging. So what changes have Nosto actually made to sort of help there, or what initiatives have you guys got? Any initiatives going for the whole sort of lockdown situation, or have you made changes to how you're communicating your product to merchants?
We're trying to. I think it's just it's a case of appreciating that it is kind of a tough time for a lot of people, and communicating that in our messaging. A lot of us have added a little line to our email signatures, just as sort of like a little statement highlighting it might not be the best time to talk, and just trying to be mindful of people. We're obviously gathering data on how people are, you know, what's happening and trends and stuff in e-commerce, like that fashion report that's been quite well received.
Which is good. It's good to have access to that kind of information, so you can make informed decisions as a merchant about where to spend your money.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there are going to be two types of, you know, people. There are two types of merchant. There are those who have sort of like decided to go into almost like a holding mode and sit it out. And then you've got other merchants who've decided to sort of pivot and change their business. So it'll be interesting to see, how this pans out in the long term. But we're all of us e-commerce professionals monitoring it very closely. We're also producing a report actually on our sample size of 35 on what's been happening over the past 8 weeks, or what is it now, 9 weeks? How long have we been in lockdown? I can't remember.
Really long, too long.
I'm conscious of time, so just to finish up, I wanted to ask you sort of how you found it personally, and what's been good, what's been bad, and just your personal thoughts, whatever you're happy to share.
Yeah. So I mean, Nosto's we were kind of fairly flexible in terms of working from home before. I think in partnerships, I was used to traveling quite a bit, so I'm kind of used to working from home, but not having the travel is weird. Just seeing no one but my flatmates instead of tons of people in the week. That's kind of probably been the toughest thing, is just feeling a bit lonely. But I think because I'm not traveling so much, there's a lot more time to get things done, which has been nice. So yeah, I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Some people are sort of much better at self-isolating than, or being. Some people do it voluntarily.
They love it. Yeah.
So whereas I'm very much a people person, so I've struggled with the whole kind of lack of social contact. That's been really hard. I'm a single parent, and I've been stuck in my house with 2 children who are at secondary school, so that's been interesting.
Homeschooling and stuff as well, or are they online?
You can't. Yeah, they're online. Yeah. But they'll have, by the time they go back to school, they'll have been out of school, because the secondary school's not going back to September. They've been out of school for 5 months. I know. So the world is definitely going to change.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It would be nice to see if other companies that may be a little bit less flexible about working from home can incorporate that a little bit, because it's nice to have the ability. It's lovely going into the office, but it's nice being able to kind of juggle that a little bit. Maybe that will.
So I think the key thing is making sure that you, in this kind of scenario, our key challenge as a business with everybody working from home is just to make sure that the service that we deliver to our customers doesn't suffer.
Yeah.
Because it's harder when you're all in one office, you can all sort of share information much more easily. Where it's a bit more tricky, and you have to almost over communicate in this kind of situation. But it looks like we're coming out of it now. So hopefully you and I can meet and have a glass of wine.
Yes, please.
I'll put on my list of about 350 people that
we'll do a big pub quiz somewhere. I don't know, open air pub or something.
Quiz on the comment. It's been great talking to you. Thanks for taking the time to share your experiences and what's been going on at Nosto.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, lovely. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.